Welcome. I'm going to be talking today about a unit that I am teaching in my Model United Nations class. The class is made up of middle school students that are homeschooled and are gifted. They all have different learning styles, so it's been a bit of a challenge. And in the curriculum, what we'll be learning is the basics of the United Nations and how the United Nations operates. We will be learning about the member state of Singapore, who my students will be representing as ambassadors to Singapore. And then the 4 topics that they are studying are microfinance, sport for development, access to clean water, and access to clean sanitation. Now this is the textbook that we're using this year. It's called Everything You Always Wanted to Know About the United Nations. It's a PDF file found online. Some of our students have printed the file and some have actually purchased the book, which you can find online. The book, I'll enlarge it a little bit here, can be is written for middle school students, so it's the perfect book for this unit. Let me go up here and just flip through some pages and show you. It's colorful, it's fun. There's some very simple 6 chapters, really 5 chapters with a little index in the back. We have some nice pictures of soldiers, actual UN soldiers doing some humanitarian work. So it's interesting. It's not a boring text. What I've had the students do is read through the chapters, and then at the end of each chapter there's a list of questions that check their comprehension. So here they are. And I've had our students just do a summative assessment by answering the questions. And in doing this, I found that one student in particular was not comprehending the material. She is a more tactile learner. Her reading levels aren't at the level of the other students. And we spent some time brainstorming, seeing how she might learn differently and how I might be able to help her. I would read the text to her. She still wasn't comprehending. So I just asked her, how do you learn? And she pulled out her computer and she said, here's how I learn. And she showed me a story. So I got an idea. I said, how about we write a story? We use the information and the facts in chapter 1 and we'll brainstorm. We got a plot together about the United Nations building and had a character walk through the building and learn all the different facts that the other students were learning by simply reading the chapter. What she ended up doing was writing her own chapter, a fun story with the facts integrated into the chapter. So that's how we became authors in our class, to differentiate the learning so that all the students would have an opportunity to learn. Here's a draft of what we're working on, the students are working on for the book. I invited the other students to join in after a week or 2 so that they could learn in a different format as well and cover any loopholes of learning that might exist, because there's a lot of tough information with the UN. So some of the students are writing. We're not using Google Docs. I do wish we had, but at this point we have such a tight schedule we can't switch over. But instead the students are highlighting and making notes. They edit each other's works. They brainstormed on the storyline, and this week we went and brainstormed a little more where we wanted the storyline to go. But you'll see the highlights here where they're working with one another, they're editing. Okay, because this is a very untraditional lesson and I want to be sure that the children, the students, are retaining the information and understanding it, what we've done is we've talked about publishing our book and using it for a guide for other Model United Nations classes. And in order to do that, I've encouraged the students, as a formative assessment for me, as well as for comprehension for themselves, to go ahead and create questions at the end of each chapter that they're writing. So right here you'll see in this Word document there's some drafted questions that they've come up with. It's not perfect yet because we're in the process. But what they do is they create the questions, their classmates read the material that the one student has written, and then go ahead and answer the questions from that same student. And that gives the student an understanding if their material is clear, if the other students are comprehending. It also helps me to see where the students are at. Okay, another formative assessment that's mixed in with a summative assessment is each week I have my students give oral presentations. It can be on different topics such as the member state of Singapore. It can be on the issues that they're studying, sport for development, microfinance, access to clean water. But I want them speaking in front of each other each week. And what I do is I have this rubric that I've gone through with them, make sure they understand it, and I hand the rubric out to every student as the presenter is giving their information. I have each student grade their classmate that's presenting the information so that they can be familiar with the rubric. I'm not using the classmates' grades to grade the presenter, but what I'm doing is getting them very familiar with this rubric so they know what I'm looking for. Another benefit of having the students fill out this rubric as their classmates are presenting is they're more attentive and they're more aware of the different points that need to be hit. All right, now one of the great apps that I have found in Edmodo is called BlendSpace. Now BlendSpace can be accessed in or out of Edmodo. I have used it for many applications. Okay, BlendSpace is virtually a slideshow. And it's a slideshow that you can get very creative. You can integrate links, such as these two slides have, videos, as these two, and pictures. So you can make it really interesting. It comes out colorful. It's not a boring PowerPoint. It offers a little more. I'll walk you through this, this lesson that I created for my students. BlendSpace can be accessed in or out of Edmodo. And here is a unit on the UN, just introducing the students to all the information that they're going to need to know. I created a Quizlet for vocabulary, a little fun way to help them learn the important terms that they're going to need to learn for the UN. That might have taken a half hour, maybe a little longer. And then I found some videos. Let me flip through the slides. Here's a video on UN water, which is one of the topics. And I made sure it's not a long video. It's less than 10 minutes. It's probably more like 5. The next slide is just, actually it's another video. Here's just a poster to help introduce the topic of sport for development. I don't think they're going to read it, but it's colorful, it's inviting, it breaks up the videos, and then here's another video. So BlendSpace is a great opportunity for students, for teachers to offer a blended classroom, even a flipped classroom. And here's a form that they're going to need to fill out, which it's popping up now. Okay, so that's the end of my lesson, but one of the really great formative assessments that I've had, that I've assigned to my students is that I want them to go ahead and create their own BlendSpace lessons so that they're using the information that I hope they're learning. They're creating something, and then at the end of the lesson, I'm asking them to put in questions. Go ahead and make an assessment, a quiz for your classmates so that when they view your lesson, you're sure that you're portraying the information well, concisely and clearly so that your classmates are getting the information. Now this was the topic of this presentation is access to clean sanitation. One of my students created it. Here's a little narrative and he says go to the next page and see which countries need help. He introduces the topic. He found a great map which showed where clean sanitation is and where it is not. And then he had a little bit more narrative, and then he inserted a little more narrative and then a video, and I think somewhere there's a game. So here's some information that he ended up putting in his Edmodo backpack for everyone to use. It's good research information. And then this is a quiz that he had his classmates take, or I required for him to create in order to assess his classmates and really assess his work. If he had presented his information well, they would score well on the test. So that's a formative assessment that I've created for them. Here's a couple more lessons. Here's a cute lesson, which I thought was very creative, on sport for development. One of our students just inserted a couple pictures, and then a narrative of information, and then a video. And also she put in some class notes, which I thought was very creative. And she went ahead and created an assessment for the class on a different format, Google Forms. Okay, here's another formative assessment that I've created for my class. It's a bingo game. This helps me to see what their real comprehension is, because there's really no pressure. It's not a timed game. It's simply, I ask a question. If you have the answer on your bingo card, I create a couple cards and give them 2 cards each so that they have more opportunity. They're looking, they're interested, they're engaged, and they really want to do well. So this is a low pressure assessment, and I think it's worked really well. We've played other games like Jeopardy. The pressure's a little too high to really check comprehension, let them think and brew a little bit for the answers, because their classmates are pressuring them as well. I think bingo has worked the best of the games. Okay, in conclusion, using project-based learning allows for formative assessments very, very comfortably. I think in assessing my use of formative assessments, what I need to do, what I've learned through this class, is that I need to have more clear and concise rubrics and benchmarks for my students to know exactly what's expected of them, and really more so for me to give them a fair assessment. And it's easy to differentiate that assessment for each student. I can easily individualize those rubrics. But that's definitely what I've learned, is that I can be more precise in my assessments of their grades and their performance according to how they've learned and what their comprehension level is. But it's been a really fun class and a great opportunity to learn more about formative assessments versus the summative. Thank you. Appreciate your time.